Welcome to Spotlight on Local Artists, presented to you by Charlotte County Libraries and History. I'm Judy Domzalski here at Mid-County Regional Library. Today we have joining us Howard Spielman, digital artist originally from Brooklyn, now residing in Punta Gorda. Tell us a little bit about this beautiful picture behind us. Our viewers would love to know about the process of digital art and how it comes about from beginning to end. Could you tackle that?
I'd love to do that.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I've been a lifelong artist. I've taught and worked in every medium that there is. I specialized in my graduate work as a metal plate etcher. As a matter of fact, when I went to get a permit, a pistol permit, I had to apply a couple of times because my fingerprints were not clear from working with the acid and the metal plates at the college.
Oh.
But anyway, that being said, when I moved actually to Port Charlotte, not Punta Gorda,
Okay.
We built our house and I built a 26-foot studio for painting. And soon after, I got interested in digital art. And so that is pretty much a storeroom. And my working area is a computer, a camera, and a digital brush. So basically, digital art is art that's created in a computer with the help of a computer. And the end result of it is essentially a digital file. So obviously you cannot hang up digital files around the living room. So to have a tangible product, you have to make a print. But the technology has galloped along so well now that you can print on anything. So if my intention is to create a watercolor effect, I'll ask my printer to print on heavy watercolor paper. At the Visual Arts Center in Punta Gorda, they had a show 2 years ago called Springtime. Strangely enough, I had an image that I entitled Springtime, so I entered that. It was designed to look like a watercolor. It got first prize.
Ooh.
And the judge said, "Oh, I thought it was a watercolor," which was the entire intention.
Yeah.
So my process is I begin with a photograph. And the way an oil painter works with an underpainting to first develop values and then puts the color and detail on top of that underpainting, I use my photograph, my original photograph, as my digital underpainting. So and then I would apply a series of digital effects, basic effects, that a lot of people are familiar with. Now, I'm going to digress for a second. My daughter is a charmer. And one time I was mildly critical of her on the phone. She lives in Maryland. And she said, "You know, Dad, you're stealing my positive energy." I said, "Sarah, I don't want to steal anything from you. I'm very sorry." So a couple of months later, I did something I was very proud of. I was really happy with this digital image. And I was talking to her and I said, "Sarah, I did something really terrific." And she said, "Dad, it's only Photoshop. Everybody does it." And I said, "Well, what about my positive energy?" So she hadn't seen my work. But when she did see my work, she wanted it all, and it's all over her house now. So she changed her attitude. So to go back, after I apply basic Photoshop techniques that many people know how to do, I pick up a digital brush. Now here's how to describe a digital brush. There's a digital tablet and a digital brush. The tablet is a glass plate connected to the computer. A digital brush is wireless. It looks like a ballpoint pen. When that passes over the glass plate, it disengages the mouse. Working with a mouse is like working with a rock. Working with a digital brush is like working with a brush. So you can make it any size. What you see on the screen is a circle. That's what the brush looks like. Could be any size, from a pinpoint to the whole screen. And if you click on a color, you've got that color. Whatever you do on that glass plate affects the photographic image that you worked on. And I go inch by inch, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for over a month, until that image is totally transformed and is no longer the photograph that I took in the first place. Because my feeling is, if I start with an original photograph and I end with something very close, there's no point, and I discard it. So it has to be something more exciting, better, more interesting. And this image is a case in point. It looks like the entire beach was covered with shells. Actually, they were very small patches of shells. And the original photograph was taken with an iPhone, just leaning over a small patch of shells. Then I thought, you know, maybe I'll do something with this. The color of the shells was gray-white. There were no visible color. People were stepping all over these shells. You know?
Yes.
Common. Well, I always like happy accidents. So as I'm playing with the image, and I won't tell you how I did it, because that's on a need-to-know basis. I discovered a way to bring out the inherent color that was actually there. And then I accentuated that color, and then I continued to work on it. So when I have an art festival and someone comes in and they say, "Oh, that's a nice photograph, you touched that up a little," I try not to insult people and say, "Yes, I touched that up for 3.5 weeks."
Can you talk a little about the bubbles? We were mentioning that earlier.
Yeah, some of the larger bubbles are more apparent as magnifying glasses. They're literally magnifying the shells underneath. So it has kind of a special quality. The color has kind of a nice quality, and the magnification of what's under the bubbles creates additional interest.
You can see that when you're close up on the
And this
picture.
image printed on aluminum, which is a very nice current material. You know, sometimes at a show, if I decided to frame something, someone says, "I like the work, but I don't like the frame."
Yeah.
Well, we can reframe it, but these kind of images on aluminum never need a frame. And they're very sleek and they're very modern looking.
Yeah.
So if you have a home that's very traditional, this may not be the look you want, but if you have something that requires something sleek, for want of a better term, then you might be interested in that.
I had a quick question. I'm sure this is an easy one for you. In oil painting and even acrylics, you are able to layer the color.
Absolutely.
And that's mainly where the effect comes from, to the point it can be really quite thick on the canvas. Can you do that with the digital pen?
There's literally nothing you can't do digitally, and there are things you can do digitally that you cannot do with paint. So for example, if you're talking about layers, I mean, layering in working digitally is one of the part and parcel of the way I work. So let's say I wanted to tint several of these shells a particular color. So if I clicked on this color, I would have it. But full strength, it might be too strong. So I can, there's a slider once you click on a color. You could, from 100% all the way down to 0%. So I can put this down to 5% and then take my digital brush and do exactly what you said. But the great thing about digital work is If you mess up, you click it and it goes away.
Yeah.
And if you say, oh, actually, I did like that, you click it again and it comes back. And I've had experiences when I was painting in oils. If I took a day or two off, some colors dried faster on the palette than others. Mm-hmm. So I go back to my palette and I have an unfinished oil paint, and I say, well, that green, now how exactly did I mix that? You never have this problem.
Exactly.
You don't have the fumes, and you don't have to worry about combinations of what did you do yesterday, because it's there.
Do you have a favorite color? Is there a color that comes out particularly well digitally?
No,
more so than
no,
others?
no. The image tells you what it needs.
Oh, right.
You know. There's a picture over there I call Blue Palm. It's just like an infinite number of shades of blue, and that's what I wanted to work with. But and the other picture there, I call it Kaleidoscope because it has virtually every color in there. It's what the image wants. And someone said to me one time recently, how did you get that effect exactly? And you know, I'm a pretty disorganized person. What I should be doing is writing down formulas of, as I do something, and that's a nice effect, how did I do that? That's a very nice effect, I don't do that. It's like, I think a lot of people, when they work at something, they get in the zone, and you go with it when you're in the zone,
Exactly.
and that's how I work. And when I'm all done, I said, gee, I wish I knew how I did that, but it's finished now. I don't know exactly what I did, but
So each picture is a true original.
Absolutely, 100%.
And they are all quite different. We have 3 really special pictures here today. So I think that's a great segue. Let's take a look at the Blue Palm.
Blue Palm.
Tell us all about Blue Palm.
Well, I think we were on vacation in the Caribbean, and I took a series of pictures. One was more striking to me than the others, and I worked on it, and I thought, what if it was all variety of shades of one color? May not be the most realistic thing, but that's what I thought might work out okay, and I think it's basically did.
Yeah, definitely did. We're going all the way from sort of like a robin egg blue here, all the way to an indigo in the background. And now I see the answer to my question about layering. It's much more obvious in this one to me.
Sure. And I worked very hard on getting the sunlight coming through the opening in the branches.
And that definitely works with this picture, even though it's basically the one color that you're using.
I think there's also a connection to what I used to do as an etcher.
Oh.
Because there's a definite graphic quality, even though it's a digital painting. I like to describe my work as digital painting.
Yes.
It has a very strong graphic quality to it, I think.
Yes, quite different from the first one we looked at.
Well, as we spoke about earlier, instead of doing all floral pictures or all landscape pictures or all one kind of picture, I'm sort of an artistic butterfly flitting from flower to flower.
Wow, that's quite an analogy.
I have to be interested in the next thing I'm doing.
Yes.
And there are very successful artists that are very successful doing just one thing.
That's an interesting point. So when you're creating a picture, are you totally focused on that, or are you already thinking about the next one?
Actually, I'm totally focused on the current image I'm working on, and when I'm done, I get antsy and I get upset, and I have to do the next thing, but I'm not sure what the next thing is. I like to think I have a pretty good eye, and I notice things that other people don't notice. Just like we talked about the seashells that everybody was stepping on.
Yes.
That I said, well, maybe there's something here. I did an image that I like a lot. It's on my website, called Blue Spring. We were kayaking, and there was a blue spring.
Yeah.
And the fellow next to me said, "You're taking pictures of water. Water is clear." I said to him, "Well, maybe I see something here that you don't see." And I think that's one of my favorite pictures. It's called Blue Spring and has many colors.
Yes.
And a lot of people
I've seen that one.
responded.
Yeah. It's amazing the use of light in this one. That's quite fascinating to me in digital art. I don't know if it's the angle that I'm looking at, but this blue in the sky here looks lighter than the blue over on the left-hand side. I mean, creating a real shaft of light that's almost impressionistic, really, I guess.
I'll accept your vision of what I humbly created.
So tell us about what background you chose for this particular painting. The other was on metal.
Yes, okay, so when I was done with this, it seemed to me the most appropriate finish would be on canvas as an oil painting would appear. But again, all of my work only exists as digital files, which I could have brought them, but people are familiar with it. I could have just taken one out and said, "There, this is what this started out." It's like an egg. But yeah, I look at it, but I've had shows where people say, I love this image, but I also like aluminum. Could you print this on aluminum? And I said, you can print on anything, but this is more appropriate the way it is.
I agree, yeah.
So sometimes they get what they want.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't.
They too have checkbooks. Let's segue into the third picture. Okay, and moving swiftly into our third exhibit here, we have Kaleidoscope. A good picture to put after the blue palm. This is filled with color. Tell us about this one.
Well, we were invited to the Blue Ridge, if you notice, there's an absence of palm trees.
Yes.
And it was autumn, and I looked around and I said, well, there may be something for me to do here. So I like to think that this is essentially autumn on steroids. Now, one of the things you can do digitally is not only put things in, but take things out. So anything that disturbed the composition, I got rid of. Anything that enhanced it, I put in. And then it's a matter of, these are not natural colors in the sense of the strength of the colors. And it's a matter of deciding how far you want to take it. So, you know, there's a limit, you know, how much is too much. So I think I'm right on the edge there with Kaleidoscope, but you know, it works for me, and a lot of people respond to it.
Well, I think you're really showcasing digital art in this one, as opposed to any other form of art or painting, because you have gone a little over the top with the color.
Absolutely.
And that's what's special about it.
Sure.
You do have that option.
You know, I like to tell people that in my work, I try to go for the wow factor.
Yes.
And I think that people who see something that I've done for the first time, I often get that reaction. I often get wow.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the pieces that gets that reaction.
Yes, you've actually taken a really serene setting. Blue Ridge is absolutely amazing. And it's usually muted, even in the fall, and you've put that wow factor into it, which
Well, I
is
tried to.
stunning. Yeah, beautiful. How do art critics handle digital art?
I'm not sure how they handle, the critics handle digital art, but I know what happens locally. I consider myself sort of the Johnny Appleseed of promoting digital art.
Oh.
So I used to apply to some art festivals that said, no digital work. You know, photography, yes, no digital work. And I would lobby these people. We are in a digital age.
Yes, of course.
Everything is digital. And I got them to change their attitude. And as a matter of fact, the Visual Arts Center in Punta Gorda would not allow digital art until this current director came in. And she was more broad-minded and allowed me to win some prizes over there.
Well, tell us about the prizes that you've won.
Well, you know, just going back to the Visual Arts Center, there was a springtime show, and I had an image of plum blossoms and a single bee flying around the blossoms. And the way that was created was I spent some time at a nursery. I had the image of the plum blossoms from our house in Maryland, but I didn't have the bee. So I spent some time at a nursery chasing bees around with a camera. People thought I was crazy. What's he doing? So I took the plum blossom and I turned it into a watercolor, really very delicate, soft, beautiful watercolor. And I worked on the bee so that the wings of the bee were translucent enough so that the sky would be seen through, and the bee was large enough to be visible and so on. And it got first prize at the springtime show. And after the judge awarded me the first prize for the watercolor, I said, it's digital painting. He said, oh, I thought it was a watercolor. I said, well, for all intents and purposes, it is. Yeah, so, and the shell picture, I was very happy about that. The Shell Museum on Sanibel.
Oh.
They had a competition this year, and there were over 300 entries, and they accepted 60 images, and my work was there for a couple of months.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Actually, have a meeting with the people who are in charge of the museum store to maybe put some of my work in there.
Wonderful. Is there another medium that you'd like to work with in the future?
This is, you know, it's almost like you don't want to go back to what you're so used to.
Exactly.
I sort of almost wore off my fingerprints doing metal plate etchings at Pratt University. And got tired of watching the paint dry on my palette and not being able to figure out how I mix those colors.
Yeah.
But here's the right direct answer. I call digital art my Alzheimer's prevention program.
Explain.
Because I'm learning something new every time I work on
Excellent.
an image. I'm discovering new techniques all the time. It's not that I'm just repetitively doing the same thing.
Can you see into the future any advances that will be made in digital art? I mean, technology is going ahead at such a fast pace right now.
I don't think there's any limit.
Yeah.
I think if you think about what's possible, and I don't know if you want to call this digital art, but for example, what just popped into my head is 3D printing.
Right.
So you can have a house built with 3D printing, and people create sculpture, 3D printing. There's really, I don't know where it's going to go, but I don't think there's any limit.
Yeah.
I just am very happy with my little niche and what I'm able to accomplish with whatever talents God gave me.
Are you showing anywhere at the moment?
Not at the moment, but what I've done is I've invited the community to the home studio by invitation, by appointment, and I sell online. We used to do many, many art festivals because my experience of sharing my work with interested collectors is people seem to have to stand in front of the work to fall in love with it.
Yes.
I'll give you one example. This was many years ago. A fellow came into, you're pitching your tent essentially, and he stood in front of one of my images and he said, if I buy that, I don't think I'm ever going to have another bad day.
Wow. That's quite
Took it off the wall and he went away.
incredible.
But here's my favorite comment from one of the shows. This was kind of funny, but I kind of treasure it. So a woman comes into the booth, she looks around, and this is how she started. She said, first thing she said is, I'm not going to buy anything. I said, fine, just look around, enjoy yourself. She says, but I want to tell you something. I said, okay. She said, and I'm quoting her now. She said, I'm a professor at the Ringling School of Art, and I want to tell you, your work is a song. It's an absolute song, and you should keep doing what you're doing. And I'd like some of your literature to share with my students. I think they'd appreciate it.
Oh my goodness.
So
And it makes you emotional. I'm going to cry now, yes.
You know,
yes.
people could say anything they want.
Yeah.
But coming from someone with that background,
That kind of prestige. Yeah.
it really meant something to me, so I never forgot it.
Oh my goodness. Well, you are a joy. You're a joy to talk to, and it definitely comes out
Well, I appreciate
in your
you having me
artwork.
here.
It's been wonderful. The time has flown by. We're hoping to get Howard Spielman here to do a show for us at Mid-County, and can't wait for that. So that's going to be fabulous.
I love it. And if anybody's really interested in seeing more of my work, if they go to howardspielman.com,
Exactly.
there's about 80 images on the website.
Wonderful. Definitely do it. It's a beautiful website. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Come back and chat again one day.
Absolutely will.
Thank you.